We want video because it's just faster. You can just pick up the content so much more easily. Not to mention, there is a direct personal touch most of the time, because just like right now, I'm looking at a person, I'm talking to a person. Even if this is a recording, you could be watching this and feel like you're sitting here with me. That is something that everybody wants when they are trying to sell something. They are trying to have that personal touch without having to add work onto their already crazy load. So how can you scale personal touch? Video is the way to do that.
Hey y'all, welcome to Selling with Social, the podcast that helps marketers increase marketing qualified leads, sales reps to shatter sales results, and sales leaders to grow as leaders. Each show, we interview sales, marketing, and social media practitioners, leaders, and influencers to help you connect, close more deals, build stronger relationships with clients, and improve your sales productivity. I'm Mario Martinez Jr. You're now listening to Selling with Social. Amy Schmittauer, I am so excited to have you here on Selling with Social. This is such a pleasure and a privilege. You are like my favorite YouTube sensation that's out there, the queen of vlogging, which is, for those that people don't know, that's video blogging. And you've got an amazing, impressive followers on YouTube, Twitter. I'm so excited. I'm so glad that Brian Fanzo introduced the two of us together. Thank you.
Me too, Mario. It's so great to be here. And I love your energy. I'm super excited to talk today.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. On Selling with Social, we've got salespeople, we've got sales enablement, we've got marketers, we've got entrepreneurs, solopreneurs. So everybody that's listening here today, I think will learn an immense amount of information on video blogging. And it's not unfamiliar territory. Here's why. I'm one of the few and only social selling evangelists that's out there that actually teaches selling with video as a methodology to connect with your buyers. So this is a hot topic. I've written about it. I'm speaking about it in the very near future. So when I had the opportunity to meet with you, and I know that your schedule is booked up, I think it's almost a year out that you're almost booked up, right?
It's getting crazy. I just got off a call with Malia and I was literally saying, I know this sounds nuts, but my year is booked. Part of that is I'm getting married this year and we have some international stuff coming up. Like there's just a lot. There's a whole lot going on. So.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations on the upcoming marriage. And for those of you that don't understand how crazy it is to actually get Amy on this show, to be booked up in the whole year, I had to pull a few strings and I had to call a friend who knew a friend who knew a friend to get Amy. So I'm excited, my dear. Thank you.
It's not even that deep. I didn't mean for it to be so difficult, but thank you for your patience with me. I appreciate it.
It's all good. It's good. Well, that's what happens when you become popular, right? I want to be like you.
Thanks. Thank you. That's very nice.
Well, listen, tell us something that nobody would know or be able to decipher by looking at any of your social profiles or any of your video content.
This is a tough one for me because I share a lot. I share a lot of information on my social. I think maybe what we talked about a little bit before we started recording, I have a lot of history in sort of my childhood and growing up in music, but not like I didn't want to go run off and like join a band kind of thing, although I did dabble in that maybe like in my early 20s just for fun. But I've surprised a couple people with a couple of videos with singing, and everybody always asks, "Is that you singing?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Like, I'm not gonna have somebody else sing. I'm not gonna lip sync to somebody else's made up song. That's so silly. But I have taken choir for a lot of years as a young person, and in high school, I was in some extracurricular choirs. I did quite a bit of like travel singing, I guess is what you'd call it. But nobody seems to know that about me because it's not like I'm on a YouTube channel singing, which a lot of people do. But I've just kind of pulled that rabbit out of my hat whenever I need it. And so that's kind of cheating because it's definitely online. But at the same time, I think people are just so sure that it's not me that I think I'm still tricking people. Not only that, the first time I did this was the musical book review I did for Gary Vaynerchuk's Jab, 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 Right Hook, which was a parody on Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas Is You. Yeah. And I couldn't even get YouTube to let me monetize the video for 24 hours because they thought it was the Mariah Carey song. And I was like, are you serious? Are you serious, YouTube? It is not. Literally, the words aren't the same. The singer is not the same. And that track came from some random person that like made a karaoke version of it on the internet somewhere. So anyway, kind of a funny story, but not a lot of people know that about me.
We're actually going to put your video into the show notes here.
Okay.
I love your hero video on your YouTube channel. It was so cool to watch that.
Thank you.
Now, there's a story behind you actually creating that. Tell our listeners about this story. You mentioned Gary Vee. You got pulled in and discovered by Gary Vee on the topic. Tell us about that.
A little bit. So I talk about this in the book, but essentially I met Gary. I was just blown away by him. I had, like everybody, if you want to get on Gary's radar, you got to buy books. So I bought a few books, made that happen. I was very impressed with him. When I reviewed Jab, 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 Right Hook, I was just so impressed with that book. It was probably the best social media book I'd ever read. It was the manual everybody needed to have on their desk. So I got so excited about it. I sang about it. And he didn't know that was going to happen. A lot of people also thought, really? Like, how did Gary help you orchestrate that? And I'm like, what? He didn't know. I just wanted to stand out because so many people were reviewing that book at the time. So anyway, long story short, that's how our relationship sort of started to grow as much as it grows with a digital mentor, somebody that, you don't really have the time of, but admire. And I went on to get asked by him if I was going to do one for Ask Gary Vee. So I was like, well, that's kind of cool. He wants another one, I guess. So I did a second one. And then when I wrote my own book, I just thought, why would I sing about somebody else's book, one person's 2 books, and not do it for myself? So for my book launch this year, I did 31 days of videos in a row from January 1st to January 31st. And January 31st was the day the book came out. And that last video was basically a music video. I wouldn't call it a musical book review because, quite frankly, I'm not going to review my own book. But it was a musical sort of music video about my book. And so did that for launch day. And I think the proudest moment of that for me was everyone knows me to be super chopped up, lots of edits and kind of like graphic things going on my YouTube channel. I did that video completely uncut and I was just walking and we used the gimbal and it was just like incredible video. I also had somebody cameo in it, but I still didn't cut away from myself. And I don't think a lot of people know that I have the ability to hang for longer periods of time than for a hacked up YouTube video. So it was kind of a fun thing on a lot of different levels if you picked up on it. So
yeah, very cool. So we've got you as an amazing YouTube sensation, someone who got hooked up with Gary Vee because of your branding and because of standing out from the crowd through video. Also, you've just released your new book that was back in January, Vlog Like a Boss. And that's an exciting new venture for you. And you are blowing up in the marketplace in terms of really being found and people coming to you to leverage your skill and your knowledge on leveraging video to be able to connect with your targeted audience. Did I miss anything? I'm like, is it enough?
No, I know. I don't think you missed anything, but it's been really cool. It's been
very cool. Well, tell us a little bit about Vlog Like a Boss. What inspired you to write the book, first of all?
I mean, I'm just going to be completely honest. I make videos and I wrote a book about making videos. That's weird on every level. So I think the reason I wrote it is because I'm fortunate that I've been able to speak all over the world. And I like going up there and I'm working on this a little bit, but I'm very professor style. I just want to tell you everything I know. Please walk away and make video. And I'm working on that because I think there's a balance of how much people can take in. But the cool thing is when you set the tone for somebody in that moment and inspire them to do something, they want to walk away and do it because they've been immersed in that with you. And that's cool if you can affect somebody in that way. What I didn't realize was that they could feel that way and then walk up to you and not just want a selfie and not just want to go watch your YouTube channel, but they wanted a book. And I'm like, what do you mean you want a book? A book costs money and it's going to take me time to write. Why don't you just go watch my videos that I make all the time and they're free? And that worked for a little while, but at some point, you don't get to decide what the medium is. You don't get to decide what the product is. People want what they want. So I wrote the book because people asked me for it. And I think that's where the best products come from is when you wait until your customer tells you exactly what they say that they'll buy. And I was really blown away still because I thought, it's good. I'll write it because as a speaker, I should have a book. But more importantly, I want to be able to hand my clients like the comprehensive guide and have a really great starting point with them. But what was crazy is that even when I said, oh, people want it, so they say they'll buy it, they'll take a selfie with it, and maybe that'll be it, and we'll sell 1,000 books or something. That's not what happened at all. People really wanted the book. So many people said, you won't sell anything. It's no big deal. It's just good to have a book. I sold books and people are reading them and they're tweeting me the words inside them. And like that is just mind blowing to me and a testament to listen to what your customer wants. Because even if you think you're doing the right thing, and you are, because obviously I reached people by creating video, and we'll talk a lot about that today. But even the girl that makes video had to write a book because there are so many more people to reach who haven't gotten there yet. And you have to meet people at their level of understanding right now and how they like to consume information so that you can make all the more difference in your own brand awareness. So yeah. I wrote it because they asked for it, the short answer.
Now, you mentioned something that I think is really, really important in terms of how people like to consume information. Mm-hmm. Clearly, they're asking for a book, but yes. Clearly you wrote about vlogging because people love to consume information through video.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the science behind consuming information through video. Where has this world come to in terms of our consumption of video? Is it better to have video than it is to, say, write a blog as an example? Give us a little background on that.
So here's the thing. I mean, it's all about the fact that we have to show up. Marketing today doesn't always mean talking about your product. As a matter of fact, most of the time it doesn't. It really doesn't. And that's probably hard to hear on a lot of levels, but you've just got to show up. So if that's the case, then you have to show up with what people want. And what we know people want right now is video. I think we've known that since the TV came out. So pretty much it's just a different place. It's a different medium. It's video. The bottom line from that is most of us are visual learners. Not very many people are this type that like to read immersive information and word for word will understand something, be able to pick it up, be able to do something. I mean, remember when we had to read instructions to put together a bookcase? Like my bookcase never came out right because of that. But because we have video tutorials on things now, it's different. I can see what's happening. I can understand what's supposed to happen. That's a massive connection, no matter what you're talking about when you're thinking of who is watching this and why. We want video because it's just faster. You can just pick up the content so much more easily. Not to mention, there is a direct personal touch most of the time, because just like right now, I'm looking at a person, I'm talking to a person. Even if this is a recording, you could be watching this and feel like you're sitting here with me. That is something that everybody wants when they are trying to sell something. They are trying to have that personal touch without having to add work onto their already crazy load. So how can you scale personal touch? Video is the way to do that. Not to mention the fact of the advantage that it's visual learning. It's so all of those things together is magic, period.
Yeah, it's interesting because I talk about as a social influencer related to salespeople, so social selling, digital selling, I talk about there's 4 things we know about today's buyer. Number 1, we know they're digitally connected, right? Mm-hmm. There's an average of 3.64 devices that every person has around the world. Number 2, they're socially engaged. Just walk down a city street of anywhere and look how many people are actually looking down at their mobile devices. Mm-hmm. Or go into a restaurant and see how many people are actually having conversation versus looking at their phone. We also know that our buyers are mobile attached. And the 4th thing that we know is that they're video hungry. And this is something that we talk a lot about in terms of sales folks and entrepreneurs and solopreneurs. And marketers clearly know this information. Thus, even in Content Marketing Institute in their study for 2017 identified top 5 initiatives for a marketing organization is use video, right? Mm-hmm. So we know this to be the case. And for all the listeners that are out there that are thinking about how do I stand out from the crowd, Amy, talk to me. Is video a way of standing out from the crowd from your competition? Is it a way to differentiate yourself?
Yes. I mean, like it's just like no question, because here's why. If you're still asking that question and you haven't done it yet, there are many people like you, or maybe they haven't even entertained the thought, but they can all potentially be grouped into a club of, I don't want to be on camera. I'm a little bit afraid to be on camera. I don't think I need to have this whole personal interaction thing to sell my product. That's too much of me. That's too vulnerable. And that is a step that a lot of people just won't take. Even today, when we feel everyone is narcissistic and posting selfies and all that happy stuff, the bottom line is most people still won't do video. I was just talking to a potential client the other day who has 6 figures in Instagram following, but can't bring himself to even go live on his own Instagram account. And that's because it's video. It's different than the photo he took and the editing and all of that. It's so different. The interaction is different. I would argue it's incredible, but you won't know until you get over that hump. So will you stand out? Yes, because there are still so many people that won't do it because A, they either think it's stupid, or B, they think it's stupid, but they're really just afraid of doing it altogether. Yeah. And that's what it comes down to. When I ventured into video in the beginning, we're talking about 10 years ago. I just had my 10-year anniversary of my first YouTube account. Like, that's ridiculous. But when I first started vlogging, it was because I loved the art of editing. So that was me, nerd. But when I started video for my business, it was because I already had it in my arsenal. I understood how to do a great YouTube video. And I wanted to take that into the business world and say, hey, 2010, 2011 businesses that are thinking, why do I have to have a Facebook page? Everyone's telling me to have a Facebook page. This sucks. I want to teach you how to do this, bootstrap with it, but not make it such a chore to learn about. That's where my specialty was with video. That's how I stood out. That's how I ended up growing in a very busy place. I just did my very best work in my very best medium, and I brought the heat. I didn't hold back. I was generous with what I knew. I taught you how to do my job because I knew if you were going to do it, you were going to do it and you were going to love me forever and it was going to help my brand until the end of time, or you would try to do it and it would be way too much and you would hire me. So yeah, that helped me stand out big time. And it's a huge reason for where I am today. It's the reason I have a book. It's the reason about a lot of things. I think I'm fortunate that video ended up being my forte. And here we are in 2017 and it's the year of video again and again and again and again. Yeah. And it's like, hey, Amy, it's the year of video. You're really onto something. Yeah, I know. Thanks. But you will stand out. It's not just a meta situation like me, which you'd think it'd actually be harder for me. Today it might be, but in your niche, in your industry, it absolutely is an opportunity to stand out. Most people won't do it.
Well, let's give some stats around the use of video. One of the latest reports I saw was that in 2017, 69% of the world's internet traffic is consumed by video. The stat that I saw for 2018 was that 79% of the world's internet traffic will be through video. So this is interesting because this generalization of people consuming video, the question I have to ask is does it enter into the business side of the world, right? So if you're a solopreneur, you're an entrepreneur, you're a B2B sales rep, does it actually translate into the business side? And so I pulled some stats, and this was pretty profound, and I want to get your opinion on this. Some of the stats I found was 75% of business executives watch work-related videos at least weekly. 54% of senior executives share work-related videos with colleagues at least weekly. And you know my story. I actually was discovered and got into this digital sales influencer status because of my video speaking at LinkedIn's annual users conference, right? And because I published an article with the video inside there of a conversation with my 5-year-old son. And the second call from a Fortune 100 that I got was the vice president of worldwide sales operations from a Fortune 100 who was forwarded my video of me speaking, the 14th person inside that organization to have received it. Wow. So I agree with you. And on that point you mentioned, you're like, I am just not the single case that it might happen, but executives are using this to be able to educate themselves, not just the how-to videos on YouTube. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. That story alone is just, mind-blowing to hear. And it's just so great to hear that because often I find myself having conversations with people it doesn't even matter who we're talking about, but executives are a great example. My demo isn't on name that social network. And it's just not true. The executive that you're hoping to approach is not just on LinkedIn. They probably are on LinkedIn for a number of reasons, but they are also on YouTube, maybe not as an intentional YouTube user, but as a video watcher. Where do people go to watch video? They go to YouTube to watch video. They also go to Facebook. They watch video there, but they go there to hang out with friends. And Twitter might be something else. And Instagram is something else. They're all different. They all have their reasons. They probably gravitate toward one or two of them, but they are there. And that's why I just love that story, because we can't use that excuse anymore. There was a time where it was, no one's going to use Facebook. And now it can't be.
You can't live without
executives. Yeah. And so today it can't be executives aren't watching video. They have too much work to do. I bet they do. It doesn't mean they're not trying to figure something out. It doesn't mean they don't educate themselves. It doesn't mean that their team, who they ask to help lift them up higher every single day, didn't send them something on something they found that might be useful to the organization. We can't just keep compartmentalizing what we think Mr. President is doing in the corner office. It's just not, it's not fair to you.
Yeah.
How would you even know? So that's my opinion on that. I think that's such great information for people to hear, because we have to stop assuming. We just have to stop assuming.
So let's break this down into a couple of different parts. I want to talk about the how. So sales folks are listening right now. We got marketers that are listening. We've got entrepreneurs that are listening. Let's go into pull this from the book, maybe 3 tips from Vlog Like a Boss. And let's break down the how. Give us 3 things that you would want entrepreneurs, salespeople to implement right now in their outreach activities and how they're engaging with potential buyers and or clients. What should they do to get started?
So here's the important thing is that a lot of people get to the buyer persona a little bit late in the game when they're trying to come up with the video strategy. So most of the time we gravitate toward, what do we know best? I know my product. I know my service. I know this thing. So what do I think people would want to know about it? That's where a lot of initial content comes from. That's okay, but that's really not doing much for you outside of customer service. We want customer service in addition to marketing, but it can't be everything. So you have to remember that your buyer may not have gotten to the point of becoming a potential buyer yet. They may be somewhere else in their life. They may be somewhere else in their business. They might be thinking about something else. I can give an example that's super, meta. It's my example of myself. One video that is absolutely crushing it for my channel is how to get more followers on Twitter. That is not what my goal is. My goal is not to get you more followers on Twitter. My dream is that you care about video blogging and creating great content and building relationships with people and understanding that takes time. But if I'm being realistic about the fact that I'm not on your radar yet, you don't know me, you don't trust me, you may not even know you like me yet, but I need you to get in here and meet me and know that I've got some great information for you to get you there. I have to just come to terms with the fact that you're Googling how to get more followers on Twitter. So that video exists on my channel and it does very, very well. I bring people in from YouTube search and from Google search on that video. That is so important to think about for your own funnel. Where are people right now? Because we may not be able to get them to convert tomorrow, or we might, but if we can get them to convert in the next year, you might have had to do some of the work to bring them in, to make them even think about your product by actually becoming a factor in their day. And that has to do with, what are they thinking about? What are their questions? What keeps them up at night? In the realm of the things that you talk about, what are those things in your industry that you want to become a thought leader for, so that when someone says, this is so useful, what is it you do again? That it's a natural fit for you to say, I sell X, and they're like, oh, I might need that. But they wouldn't have had that occur to them if you hadn't taught them something else that they wanted to know. So the biggest thing, first and foremost, is, what are your frequently asked questions, both close to the product and further away? Another great example, if I say I specialize in online video for brands or for companies or really for personal brands, and I'm telling average Joe, they might ask me if I know how to help him with his printer. right? So sometimes we have to think about the fact that people don't understand what you mean. I think she said something that has to do with the computer. So what can I think of in that realm? Like, here's something I need help with. It doesn't have to be that extreme, but you have to think about literally people sometimes have no idea what you do. And they may not be the right buyer for you, but still, in order to get those people to understand, you've got some education on your hands. So what frequently asked questions do you have that are close to the product as well as a little bit further away, like maybe even kind of far away that has nothing to do with your service? That's huge because it's simply brand awareness. Even if someone finds you and they may not be your buyer, they may know somebody who is, but they discovered that video that helped them, it helps them recommend you. That's huge. So frequently asked questions are big. That's something where you might even say, oh, you could Google that. Yes, you could. If you could Google it, don't you want to show up for it? That's the goal. We want to be the one that answers the question so we can get that traffic to come in. So that's one really, really big thing. But additionally, there's a lot you can do in terms of just listening on social media to what people are talking about. How can you take something that's relevant today and make it an example in the work that you do? What's happening in social today? I mean, like if customer service is your thing, you would have a field day with content right now about this United Airways issue, like delayed information. If you don't know what I'm talking about, and this is behind, but they're having a terrible PR crisis and they're treating people very poorly, it would seem. So tons of content. It may not have anything to do with what you sell, but if you specialize in customer service at all and you want to take a position on that, that may be something that's interesting to people because it's catching a lot of attention right now. Anything that's relevant in what's being talked about today, if you can find a way to connect the dots to what you do, that's your ticket in. It's another way of saying clickbait, right? Like, how do you put those keywords out there that are going to synapse in the brain of somebody and go, oh, yeah, that's interesting. Let's draw a comparison there. Click, watch. And then suddenly you've got a relationship with somebody that's watching a video. Yeah. A lot of people are so much in the vacuum of what they do. They don't consider really what the end viewer is actually thinking about when they're playing around on the internet, looking for something cool or interesting to read or research or watch. And we stay in our little vacuum about our little product and our little service, and no one ever finds us because it's not relevant. You haven't reached me yet. If you're a real estate agent and I'm a millennial who's never purchased a home and loves renting, then how are you going to get to me? I'm not looking up how to buy a house. I'm not looking up what's a good price for a house. I might be thinking what neighborhood I want to move to, or I might be thinking what are the best cities for millennials today? What are you going to talk about that actually matters to me to get on my radar so that if I get to a point where I'm like, I think it's time to buy a house, I'll know who I want to call. That's the thing that people drop the ball on. That's the biggest thing, period, end of story. Video, content, social, anything, absolutely anything. Get outside of yourself and talk about what people care about.
I love that piece of advice. I think that's very important because in the world of selling and marketing, we are not just trying to find the prospects to fill the funnel today, but we're trying to find buyers to build relationships over the course of time to fill the funnel tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And this is very important because if you think about the concept of why video is so vital, we talked about this, but there is a science behind this. And I would love to get your thoughts on whether or not you agree with this. But one, we know that the human voice conveys emotion. And when you are extending outreach to a buyer through email, as an example, there's no emotion inside there unless you're writing in all caps.
Right.
And then they might read
which is an option if you really want to.
It is an option, right? There is some emotion
Not
inside.
Recommended.
So video helps you to be able to convey the emotion because they can actually hear your voice. The other thing too is we know the science behind it is the brain is hardwired to trust the human face. Period. End of discussion. So when I think about this concept, if your competitor, small or large, is reaching out to your buyer, the same buyer for the same set of services, just with a competitor, and they're emailing them, and you're coming in with a hardwired face so that they can start building a relationship with you, will that make an impact?
Oh my gosh. It's so
give me your thought on that.
It's so major. I have a client that specializes in sales, and I talk to him about this all the time, that remember cold calling, or remember calling at all? Because today, even salespeople are having a hard time picking up the phone. They're not even calling anymore.
Yeah.
They're emailing like 1,000 times. And so you would know that sometimes emails don't like get through all the time. Like I know that I get a few emails sometimes before I even know that somebody exists, just because there's things going on. So if that's the case, you're already just joining a really crowded party. You could have picked up the phone and set yourself apart just a little bit from there, right? Podcasting. And then the other thing is video. I mean, just think about the idea that we have technology today that you can record a video, embed it in an email, and send that email. There's opportunity number one. If for some reason that video stands out from everybody else's, it's not copy, there's a thumbnail and there's a play button, and it's like, oh, this is for me. That's huge. I mean, personally, I think individual video, not even like, we're not even talking about scale content marketing, just individual video to a person is so huge for standing out. Because like you said, I got a face, you got a face, relatable. Now I can talk to you. But other than that, I was just reading your really lengthy email that I just don't have time for. People don't think about that. They forget what it's like to be on the other side. Yeah. So video is huge. Video is huge. And so for the same reason that the sales guy wanted you on a call, or the sales guy wants to meet with you, the sales guy should want to make video so that that face is recognizable next time you see each other in person, or you just happen to, the guy sees another video from you on the internet. Like, there's that guy again. I think he emailed me or something. Yeah. Personalized video though, that's just another level. Think about the fact that no one will make video already, because they're a little bit bogged down about the idea of having their face on camera. Yeah. And it's like, and it's going to go out on the internet. So that means one of two things usually in somebody's brain. No one's going to see this, or everyone on the planet is going to see this. And those are two very overwhelming feelings. So that video doesn't get created. But what if you didn't even do that? What if you just sat down at your computer and recorded personal videos for people? You could record personal videos on Twitter. Reply to somebody on Twitter and record a video instead of typing, or go to your email and try to connect with somebody again in a different way with a video, personalized video in it. When you allow yourself to have that personal connection, you stand out, period, end of story. It doesn't matter if it's at scale or if it's one-on-one. Anytime you make the time and you connect. And the most critical thing, and probably another thing I would add to that list of massively important for video, is we're not talking to a device. It feels like we're talking to a device, but we're not talking to a device. I'm looking at the lens of a camera like it's a person. And that's a game changer. That's a massive game changer. The moment you do that, the moment you get outside of your ego and yourself and you say, no, I'm talking to Joe right now. Once you go there, the camera is just a vehicle. It is not the thing that's judging you and you're all like weirded out about yourself. And it's like, why am I doing this? You're just talking to Joe. Like Joe was sitting right next to you. That's so different. You can do that not only in personalized video through email. I do that in my videos on YouTube every day. I talk to Charlotte. I'm locking eyes with Charlotte. I'm nailing that conversation for her every time. I know what she goes through. I know what she thinks about. I know what she needs from me. I know what I did yesterday that matters to her, and I'm going to tell her every time, because even though I have lots of people who are not Charlotte that watch my videos, it doesn't matter. Because of how I speak to one person, I can affect the many. And that is just true across the board. That is why video helps you stand out, period. But it's not before you figure that out. Yeah. If you continue to talk to a device like it's a device, and it's not a human connection.
That's an excellent point. I think so many people, they get this fear. I don't like video. I can't be on video. I'm fat. I'm this. I don't, my background. Like my best videos on YouTube are the ones that actually have this office I'm sitting in right now with a treadmill standing behind me, right? It's real. It's authentic. It's engaging. And that's the other thing too, that a personalized video, you hit the nail on the head. And the B2B side, I fully believe, and I know you agree with me because you just said it, that in addition to that science I just mentioned, there's probably one more thing, and that is movement. Movement captures and keeps people attention. Like, how long can you keep people's attention by reading a 3-paragraph email? And then at the end, you're asking for an appointment.
Can't keep mine. You can't keep mine.
And this is by design.
I'm literally paying someone because I don't want to read email.
Right? Exactly. Well, and you think about this, Amy, look, here's the reality. I've said this probably 50 times on the show. We take our phones to the bathroom with us.
I know.
Right? What are we doing when we're sitting there scrolling through our feed? We're flicking the screen, and what are we stopping at? Two things: pictures and video. And guess what? Facebook now Facebook is starting to play the videos automatically if you stop on it and you start hearing the sound.
That is a totally different situation, because as I've been sharing, right now, a YouTube video and a Facebook video are not the same on any level. When you go to YouTube, you press play on a title and a picture. Right. That's how you choose to watch a video there. When you're watching a video on Facebook, it just happens without any sound while you're stalking your ex and catching up with the grandkids. Like, that's what's happening. And so that's super crazy to think about, that dynamic's going to change, because not only is this video disruptive, it's like going to start playing at you like old MySpace pages, and they're like soundtracks that would play when you go to them. I mean, it's going to be so crazy to see that, but I think that's a good thing for video. It's just another dynamic we're going to have to play within these, like, how many more videos are going to get muted now because of that? But it's a super different context to post a video on Facebook than it is YouTube. And a lot of people don't consider that either.
Yeah. So I think for our listeners, as we kind of round out this discussion, that clearly we're both passionate about using video.
Yeah.
But there's a reason for that. And you told your story. I told my story. There is a reason for that. One of the things that I think, I sit on the advisory board for a company by the name of OneMob.com. OneMob is a video sales acceleration tool, and it allows you to send personalized video messages through email. Right? Mm-hmm. There are other tools that are out there, or you can do it for free, for God's sakes. Get Screencast, or take your iPhone and turn it around, get a tripod. I've got that. Where's my tripod at? It's this tripod somewhere around here. I got a tripod. I put it up there, and I loved what you said. When you're creating a video, you're not talking to the camera. You're talking to Amy. Mm-hmm. And if you just think about that, any other tips that you think, how can I avoid the fear of this concept of creating video? You gave one: talk to the camera as if it's Amy. Anything else that you can think of in terms of overcoming fears? I
think that's part of it. I talk about 3 fears in the book. One of them is gear. So get over it. You have a smartphone. The other one is personality. I have to have the right kind of personality in order to make video. I'm not an Amy. I'm not a Mario. I can't. And that's not true either. It's about who you are, and it's about the value that you present. You don't have to be funny if you're not funny. Please don't be funny if you're not funny. And don't do anything that's not you. Talk to the camera like it's a person. So we really harped on that. And then return on investment. We know that it is there. We know we can make that personal impact. The other thing I would mention is I have something in the book called the Authority Video Formula. And this is essentially my blueprint for somebody to sit down in front of a camera, talk to it like it's a person, but essentially an outline of what you should be doing at any point during a recorded video. Probably going to be a little bit different for a live video, but it's nice little context to say, this is what I wanted to talk about. Now I have a roadmap for how I should do that. And one of the biggest things is, don't treat people like they are brand new to your videos, even if it's your first video ever. Don't treat people like they are brand new to you altogether. You should act like this party train's been going and people are hopping on board, and you just got to keep on going, because the moment you treat people like they are loyal, they will be. So what that means in layman's terms is essentially, don't bumble your way through your elevator pitch just to kick off a video because you didn't know what else to say. That's where a lot of people end up missing the boat. We have 8 seconds on average for somebody watching a YouTube video, somebody that pressed play on audio and video, that they will stay or go. At the 8-second mark, they're saying, am I going to stay? Is this the experience I wanted? Or is this not really it? I need to find something else. If you're bumbling your way through an elevator pitch that nobody really cares about because it's a call to action that you haven't even earned the right to give yet, you lost them at the 8-second mark, and you probably didn't finish it until the 30-second mark. Treat people like they're loyal. Dive straight into why you said they were going to come into that video. Deliver on that topic, and then leave your call to action for the end when they are so wowed by you. They're dying to know your name, your website, where you came from, and what you can do to help. And more importantly, the thing you want them to do next. which is the thing you're allowed to ask for now because you just offered them something valuable. I think that's a big thing, but there's a lot of things on that authority video formula that I recommend. That's just a big kicker there, as well as the call to action information, but that will set you apart so big. Because so many videos we see are who I am and what I do and why it matters to me and how excited I am about it. And then maybe at some point this century, we'll talk about the video I said I was going to make.
Is it a course, the online course that you were just talking about?
The authority video formula is actually in the book, but I have like a micro course on it for free as a bonus for people that buy the book at vloglikeaboss.com.
Okay, so we're going to make sure, A, that we put the link to purchase the book inside there. And then B, you make sure you get me whatever it is that I need so that our listeners can actually get to what you just mentioned, the authority video, through the show notes here, okay?
Fabulous.
Awesome. You know, I want to close with one thought. And I asked you two more questions, but I want to close with one thought. And I think this is very important for whatever your role is and you're extending outreach to new clients or you're maintaining client relationships. Whether you're an entrepreneur or you sell to the Fortune 10, doesn't really matter. The thought that I have and I preach is the only thing that truly sets you apart in a competitive situation, in a sales environment, is you. And I think if people walked away with that message, and I'd love to get your quick thought on that, if they realize that how can I set me apart? Because the reality is people buy from those that they know, like, and trust. Mm-hmm. And video, your competitors are not using it. They're just not. And because they have all these fears and all these uncertainties and all the how-tos. So if you think about it, the only thing that truly sets you apart from you and your competition is you, then I think people will listen to this show and say, I need to start creating my first video. Thoughts?
Ditto. Those are my thoughts. I mean, like, that's it. I just want them to walk away on that note because it's perfect. It's exactly right.
Well, two questions for you. I love it. This has been a fantastic conversation. If people want to get a hold of you, how can they get a hold of you? Can they LinkedIn with you, follow you on Twitter, follow you on YouTube? What should they do?
All the things. You can do all the things. I would just find all of that information at savvysexysocial.com, and the details about the book are at vloglikeaboss.com.
And I highly, highly recommend you get the book, or have a link inside there in the show notes so that you can pick up your own copy of Vlog Like a Boss. Amy, one last question for you. Your favorite all-time movie, what is it?
Anchorman.
Anchorman.
It's just so good. I mean, I've been using lines from that movie just forever.
I love it. That's a good one. I was cracking up laughing. My wife does not like slapstick comedy, but I think Anchorman was hilarious.
I don't usually either, but that movie is special. It is just special.
Honest to goodness story. There was one of my very, very good friends many, many years ago when Dumb and Dumber first came out. Mm-hmm. He was in the hospital and he was not well. So we decided to watch Dumb and Dumber inside the hospital. It was late at night. I was sitting there in the chair next to him. I was cracking up so hard. Anchorman was just like that. It just reminded me, when you said that, it just reminded me of that scene where I was cracking up so hard that the doctor had to come in and say, please, I'm going to have to turn off the video.
Like, right, so can't have that many happy people here.
Well, Amy, it has been absolutely fantastic to have you on the show. I love the fact that we share a common interest in the use of video. And for all the listeners, if you walk away with anything, walk away with remembering that the only thing that truly sets you apart from your competition, whether you're a small business or whether you're a Fortune 100 sales rep, is you. So vlog like a boss. Amy, thanks so much, dear. I really appreciate you having on Selling with Social.
No problem, Mario. Thank you for having me.
Take care. Thanks for listening to the Selling with Social podcast. I'm super pumped that you are our guest today. Here's what I want you to do right now. Go to jr.com/podcast and support our podcast, please, by distributing it out anywhere you can get it to on social. And don't forget to subscribe to us on iTunes. You'll find all the instructions there on the site on how to subscribe to the Selling with Social podcast. Until the next show, keep on rocking. Mario Martinez Jr. out.